think so, yeah.
We'll play it by ear anyway.
What's that drink, Micah? What was that drink?
Just a little bit of gin.
Pink gin, is it? Mm-hmm. Okay, now you must live in Harrogate, do you?
It's Harrogate, actually, Alan.
Harrogate. Oh, splendid. We have a first this weekend. Pep Guardiola has lost 4 games in a row for the first time in his coaching career. City now sit 5 points behind Liverpool. We were all together yesterday, weren't we, at Match of the Day. Micah, would you like to tell us what happened to you just before we went on air?
The Hulk.
Basically, I went to my dressing room. Yeah. I've gone there, I've put on my spray, I've ironed my gear, looking fantastic, if I do say myself. As soon as we get to the studio, I just seen Alan grinning. I'm like, what's he grinning at now? And he said, you've got a hole in your top. And I think obviously he's pulling my leg. And he said, no, I'm being serious. I pull it up and I've got a massive... I couldn't move. I was like this. On Match of the Day, I was talking like this. I was so self-conscious. It was horrible.
I saw you. Because you're normally, you quite do a lot of mannerisms with your arms and stuff, but you were keeping your... to tell you exactly, you had a big split underneath your armpit of your shirt. I mean, that's what happens when you've got guns like that, Micah. That's what happens.
The Hulk exploded before he came on air.
Yeah, and it was so close to the show, you didn't even have time to get another shirt.
Oh, my God.
He started sweating up. I could see the little beads come on his forehead, thinking, oh no, he's got to sit with his arms like this though for an hour and a half.
I was sweating the whole show. Oh, my God.
Let's start with today's games, though. The most recent one was Chelsea against Arsenal, which I actually enjoyed. I thought it was really entertaining. Very competitive, pretty even, probably fair result, you think?
Fair result, I think, yeah. Both teams went at it. Both teams had 1 or 2 half chances, I think, to win the game. But I think a draw was probably a fair result. And not a disaster for either team, to be honest. I think it would have been if Arsenal had been beaten. Yeah, I thought it was pretty even, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I thought the most interesting thing for me of the game was the midfield battle. I think Caicedo and Lavia in there are really... I don't know, they sort of come for a lot of money and didn't know how they was all going to fit in the team, and then Endo, where would he fit Endo in? But the partnership between them two and Cole Palmer sort of just in front. And then they've got obviously Thomas Partey, Rice and Odegaard. Nice to see him back. I actually thought Chelsea won the midfield battle at times, but then when they sort of went on the counter-attack, they just didn't have enough to sort of punish Arsenal. I thought Arsenal defended well at times. But yeah, all in all, I thought it was a even enough game. I think a 1-1 draw was probably the fair result.
I think he definitely told Partey to keep a close eye on Cole Palmer in that game. Understandably so, because he obviously can make things happen. But I think, Chelsea's progress has been, under Maresca, has been, I think, really good. Considering when the problems that they have, obviously, in terms of, with the ownership, bringing in so many new players, having a dressing room with, I don't know how many players they've got. And we all thought it would be a really difficult job for him. But, even though they robbed our manager, and they've robbed a lot of our players at Leicester over recent years. We're almost like a feeder club for Chelsea in some ways. But he's definitely pretty savvy on the tactical front, I think. Maresca,
we've been critical of the number of players that have been brought in there for the manager or coach to manage. But what he's doing and what he's done is he's got his cup team, which is a completely different 11 or 10, and then he's got his league team who he puts out. He's got the same 11 or 12 that he'll put out for league if everyone's fit. So he's rotating that at the minute. I'm pretty sure that's what he'll do in the FA Cup as well, I guess, and probably try and that at the minute. That's working for Chelsea because they seem as if they're pretty settled. There's no drama coming out of the club at this minute in time. It's all about the football, I guess. So that has to be positive for them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. But I think watching Arsenal now for the last sort of 2 years where they could have gone on and won the league, I really believe they need a striker now. I think Havertz has done exceptionally well in terms of holding the ball up, the runs that he makes, linking up play, technically very good, works out. He's got all the attributes for what Arsenal want in terms of the way they want to press and the way they want to set up. But there's just sometimes I think that they need a poacher. They need that striker's instinct at times where you can go missing for 80 minutes of the game, but in the vital moment, you just get that goal. I just think that's what Arsenal are missing. I'm always looking at where Arsenal going to score from. Is it going to be Saka? Is it going to be a set piece? It was good to have Odegaard back in the side. He got the cross for the Martinelli goal, didn't he? But I still think they're just missing that ruthlessness in front of goal at times, or taking or making opportunity out of nothing from quick movement from a striker or a little bit of brilliance. To just take them to the next level, I would say.
Do you think Arsenal are playing generally slightly deeper this season?
In terms of stats, and I always look at a stats man, and I don't always like to look at the stats, but I like to watch the game with my eyes. I said that last time, and he said, of course, you watch the game with the eyes. But with my own instincts in terms of, I like to watch a game first and then look at the stats. I wouldn't trust anything
with your fucking eyes, by the
way. It definitely is a theme where Arsenal, when they're at home, they're on the front foot. And when they're away from home, they go a little bit deeper. And they're almost like a counter-attacking team away from home, which at times can help with Martinelli and Saka. I think that's where they play on the wings for the pace. But at times, to get from back to front, it's taking them too long, especially away from home. And if you look at them in the Champions League, away from home, they're just not the same. Even against, who did they play? Inter last week. They just didn't have enough to break them down. They did all the good things in the game. The rotations were quite good. The passing was good, but they just couldn't get that goal.
Yeah, real bonus for them, Odegaard coming back. Although I was surprised he played the whole game. Yeah, which testament to his obviously match fitness, which is because it's difficult, isn't it, when you come back from being out for quite a long time. But
see what happens at international level now with a lot of players, not only Arsenal. I think don't be surprised if you see a load of pull-outs from international players from their countries, rather than going playing in the Nations League or wherever. You'll actually see them having a bit of a rest, and I'm sure that they'll come out and say they may be injured or whatever, but it'll be more to have a rest, I think, and I think there'll be loads of them this next couple of days.
Yeah, possibly with England as well, in particular, because obviously you're going with a manager that is not going to be there in the future, so it's not like you've got to go and press or anything like that. So there might be a few pull-outs. Saka came off, didn't he, with a few minutes to go. One or two other injuries over the weekend. Trent obviously will pull out because he tweaked his hamstring. But I think I tend to concur with you there on that one. Great goal from Neto, wasn't it? Back of the Neto.
It just opened up. There was no pressure on the ball at all from Arsenal. There was a gap there, and they were sort of inviting him to go in there, and he thought, yeah, why not? And it was a great strike.
He's better on the right than the left, isn't he? I know he was in Match the other day, wasn't he? And he whipped in a wonderful ball from the left, and I was like, he's got to play right. But I just prefer him on the right because he can go both ways and going inside onto his left foot. I think it just favours him and the team.
He put another great cross in today. Was it for Gusto? Or was it he missed it at the far post?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
What a ball that was, wasn't it?
With the header.
Yeah, he should have scored. I mean, it was a big chance.
You see so many players missing headers like that. You know what it is, because I've kind of mentioned this before, but the ball comes over, and I think as you head it, there's a tendency to close your eyes, and when you close your eyes, you dip your head. And if you watch it, I think he did exactly that, and then it comes off the top part of the forehead rather than I was taught by a guy called George Jewis when I was young, who was a great Leicester goal scorer for many years, and he used to say, "You've got to keep your eyes open, and therefore you'll see it right onto your forehead, and it won't go up in the air." And it's quite kind of common weakness amongst players, but it was a fabulous chance. And then right at the death, the Trossard, and they nearly sneaked it.
Was he offside?
It was tight,
offside,
wasn't it? But
offside.
Cucurella's leg was quite a bit back, so I think it would have been one of those where you look, VAR have a look at it, and we'll wait about 4 minutes, and it might have been a toe either way. But yeah.
Might have been offside, but it was like I think it was Havertz was behind him as well, wasn't it? When
yes.
He sort of took it off him as well, didn't he? He was like, oh God.
Yeah, 9 points now behind Liverpool, Arsenal. That's a lot, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a lot, but I think they're capable of going on a really good run. You would hope from their point of view, they've got through their injuries. A couple of weeks back, come back after the international break and go on a 4 or a 5 game run where they can win every game, and they can do that. So I wouldn't rule Arsenal out just yet. I think it was a decent result for them today. Getting the point, it would have been a disaster if they had been beaten. But getting the point, I still wouldn't rule them out.
Yeah, obviously at the same points as Chelsea. But if you look at the league table, it's fascinating. Obviously, Liverpool are 5 points clear of City, who are then 4 points clear. But then after that, from 3rd to 9th, 1 point separates all those teams. And they include Forest, Brighton and Fulham as well, and your boys. Sense a good mood. You've got like a good vibe about you. You're a happier man. They seem to be going back to the sort of energy levels and performances that we saw a lot last season.
He's found the balance in midfield, and that's been the big difference. That's where the change has been. Joe Willock's come in to the left of the three in midfield, Bruno in the middle, and Longstaff just to the right of him, and then Joe Linton either left side up front or right side. He played both sides again today, which allows Gordon to play left or right. And I think that balance has worked perfectly, and that has been the big difference. And from winning against Chelsea, winning against Arsenal, winning again today, they've got their mojo back. They've got their energy back. You know, they look much more like the team from a year ago or 18 months ago when they were really tough to play against.
I really like Joe Willock. Not just the energy he brings, the way he carries the ball forward, right. And he just buys his team a little bit of time at the right moment, so he makes the right passes. I think obviously Joe Linton's always, a good player, always gives 100%. Bruno, you expect magic from him, sometimes a little bit hit and miss, but I just think the addition, bringing Willock back into the team, I think that has been the key point for Newcastle.
He's a really good player. The only problem he's had is his injuries. If he can stay clear of injuries, then not only for himself individually, big things, but he's a big part of what Newcastle do and how they play.
Yeah, great goal from Joe Linton,
wasn't it? Yeah, great. Brilliant. I mean, the run from Livramento, which allowed him to come inside on the left-hand side and curl it in, it was a great finish.
Do you want to give a little bit of love to Big Dan Burn, Alan? I know he's one of your favourites, isn't he?
Doing well. He's doing really well. They look pretty mean again at the back, and there's been no respite hardly for him and Fabian Schär because of the injuries to Botman and Lascelles. Particularly Botman, because he's a big player. He's one that if he gets a run in the team, he's not far away. I think he's near full training, so he may be another month or 4, 5, 6 weeks away. But if he can get a run in the team, he's a one that the big boys would be looking at. I think would be trying to, when you talk about Newcastle and PSR and Bruno or Isak or whatever, he's another one. If he can get in a run in the team, Botman, who he could be a really big player.
He spoke really well of him, didn't he? Sean Longstaff, when we had him on the podcast, said he was one of those players that could play anywhere. With Dan Burn, I think it suits him better in the middle, though.
Yes.
Because I think if he gets a winger against him who's quick, it's really difficult for him, I think. Agreed?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And he loves a fight. He loves a scrap, If anyone wants to go up against him like Chris Wood today, then he really, really enjoys that. And he's done really well, Big Dan Burn has.
another win under Ruud van Nistelrooy. It's 4 games, 3 wins and a draw. I mean, Leicester have been 2 of those games. I mean, we were talking with my boys earlier, and we were saying, I mean, why couldn't they have waited a couple of weeks before and played? We could have played the Ten Hag Manchester United, and we've got a rejuvenated team, as that little bump that you often get when a manager goes, and even if it's a caretaker or otherwise. But Van Nistelrooy's done a good job. It'd be interesting to see if he stays, wouldn't it? Because it'll bring his own coaching staff in. I think it's about 4 of them, isn't there? Amorim.
Well, at the game, obviously we already got the highlights because
Yes.
it wasn't on Sky, was it? But I was watching Y-Scout. It's something that I use with all the clips and everything. And after the game, he was almost clapping the fans. I don't know if that was to say he's leaving, he's not part of the team going forward, or that's just the end of, obviously, his tenure interim sort of 4 or 5 games that he was in charge.
He'd get a first-team coach's job, though, wouldn't he? It's a decent club, I would think, now.
Yeah, he will. But, I mean, I think in terms of, we always talk about the connection between the staff or the players and the fans, and Van Nistelrooy just has that. They're sort of bought into what he was trying to do, really respected. If I was Man U's position, I'd be keeping him around as first team coach.
Yeah, but I understand that and I get that, but I don't know. He's a big personality. You get the feeling he wants to be a number one. He wants to be a manager. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he was to have a clean break and say, I've done what was asked of me. Thank you very much. And Amorim came in and had a sort of a clean sweep, and he's bringing all his own people in, and then Ruud can go and find himself a number one job somewhere, which, as you said, he's done himself no harm at all. In fact, he's done a great job. Yeah. He's done everything asked of him and more. He's settled the ship. He's picked up points as they had to do, got the results as they had to do. So he can say, yeah, thanks everyone knows how much he loves Man United, and they love him. That's not going to change. So it wouldn't surprise me if he shook hands and said thanks very much.
It also wouldn't surprise me if Ruben Amorim comes in and goes, do you really want someone that's kind of been part of the previous regime in there, especially a big personality like that, when you've got, and where do you place him? Is he first assistant, or is he, I think might be a little bit awkward, or so I suspect, like you, that he might go elsewhere. Bruno, his 250th game, Bruno Fernandes, first goal was a belter.
It was a good finish. Do you think the keeper, you're looking at the keeper, I mean, it was, 3 yards inside the post, or am I being harsh?
I think you've been a tad harsh, Alan.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was a good goal, yeah.
It was a good goal.
I think his overall performance was really good. Little back heel from Diallo, wasn't it? And then he finished it off. And then the second goal was sort of like it was going wide when he sort of touched it. It's gone down as an own goal, hasn't it? But fantasy football, he got an assist. Thank you very much.
Have you got him in, have you, Micah?
Of course.
You've had a good weekend then, haven't you?
And then who passes to Garnacho for the third? Fernandes.
You've had a good weekend because you captained Salah yesterday. I mean, I know that you and Harry were in cahoots and discussing it.
So, if you don't know, Harry is one of the producers of the show. We pretty much mention him every single week, along with John as well. Don't want to leave you, John. Wolves got their win as well, don't they? So we can mention John.
We'll come to that.
But we always text, and he shows me his team. I show him mine. And I said, no, Haaland, he's going to have one of them weeks. Brighton, sort of play open. There's going to be loads of space behind. He's going to get hat-trick. And then he said, no, but Salah gets clean sheets regardless. And if you get a clean sheet, you get an extra point. And if he was to get a score or assist, it's an extra point because he's a midfielder. And he talked me into Salah, and what a decision it was. So thank you very much, H.
So hang on, you get an extra point if you pick Salah and to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, so the midfielders, Salah's down
as a load of shit.
I always think that was fantasy.
Don't disrespect fantasy football ever.
Yeah, but he's not really a midfield player, is he? I mean, I know how it works on that thing. They have one forward, don't they? Is that right? Just basically the 9, and is that? Do you have to have one in your team?
You can have 3 forwards, but we're talking about Solanke, Chris Wood, Haaland, Evan Nilsson, proper forwards. Like Salah's a wide player, so is Son, so is Saka. They're down as midfielders.
Do you ever do any good in this fantasy football, or do you just cry every weekend?
Just cry every weekend. It ruins my life.
It ruins my life.
It spoils my day.
You do realise you don't have to do it.
Well, I do though. It's good for prep.
What, you don't just turn up and talk rubbish? You actually prep, do you?
I actually prep to talk rubbish. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Bad day for Spurs. A bad day, but a great day for Ipswich. Their first win since they got up. So congratulations to Ipswich.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't the televised game, so I've seen a few minutes of the highlights. Great effort from them, and Schmodix he's scoring, isn't he? Because he's one of those players that you wondered whether he could step up and score goals in the Premier League, but he's got a few now. In a team that has been struggling as well.
So who told the guys about Schmodix? To be fair, though, I told you about Brereton Diaz, and he's not been scoring, has he? So, yeah.
Well, did you get that off Y-Scout as well, did you?
But yeah, it was a big win for Ipswich, and I think they've done better than they thought they was going to do. I mean, in terms of the way they want to play and press, they set up really well, but you think, would they have enough quality for the Premier League? But they're surprising a few people.
Typical Spurs, though, isn't it? Goodness me.
Spursy, I think they call it.
At home, you beat Villa at home with a great win, and then you got Ipswich at home, and Ipswich turn you over.
Lost at Palace as well. So
yeah, that's right.
It's a poor result. The fans were booing a bit after the game. I understand, and so. I mean, they're in their group. They're just behind. They're in that group of teams that a couple of wins and you're in third. You could be in third place, but so it's too early to panic. But that would be a real blow, losing that particular game for Ferenc Postecoglou. Is he in the area of being under pressure yet or not? I wouldn't have thought so. I shouldn't be. I don't think. No,
don't think so. No, I think you just look at it as he took responsibility, didn't he? Say it's his fault, his problem. He's got to sort it out. And I mean, that is. Yeah. But when you see them second half against Villa and then beating City, it's the inconsistency again. How long we've been saying that about Spurs?
Alan was designated with West Ham versus Everton, and well, you were struggling to keep your eyes open.
Dreadful. Even the cameras were panning on people in the sat in the stadium, fans yawning, bored, just like I was. Yeah. It was the worst game of football I've seen in a long time, and the standard from both teams was terrible. And I mean, West Ham had a couple of half chances towards the end of the game, but we said it last week. Doesn't look good what's going on at West Ham. The money that they've spent, the players that they've brought in, they're probably miles away from where they thought and we thought they may be, because I thought it was a decent summer for West Ham, but it doesn't seem happy there. No,
I wouldn't disagree. By contrast, new managers coming at Liverpool, Arne Slot. Well, what a job he's doing. He seems calm. He seems tactically really, really smart. His teams are performing. He's come in following Klopp, which was always going to be a big pair of shoes to fill, but it's almost as though he hasn't got a care in the world. The team are playing really well. They're 5 points clear at the top of the table. And they beat an Aston Villa side that actually played quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Slot is the real deal. And I say that because when he first came to Liverpool, he was talking about the team's good enough. There's just subtle differences or little tweaks that he needs to make in order for them to be a better team. And he's done that by a slower build-up, as we've mentioned before. I think Konate's been really good for him. Don't remember at the start of the season, he started Kwanzaa, who he wasn't aggressive enough. He was a leader in saying, okay, no problem, you come off. I'm going to put Konate on. Started winning all the headers. He stayed in a team, not afraid to make them brave decisions. And I still think Liverpool have got another gear to go. And that's why I think they're true contenders for the league, because I still think at times the passing could be sharper, it could be crisper, they could get it out to the wide boys, whether it be Salah or Diaz, a lot quicker. Nunes, as Alan did on Match of the Day last night, he's still snatching at chances. So I think there's more to come for Liverpool. But up to now, they've certainly impressed just by the balance in which the setup, which allowed them to get results.
Yeah, they're strong. They're not going away. They're there to stay. They've got so many good options, both in midfield and up front. Maybe not as many defensively, although they've got Gomez and Kwanzaa to come in and Tsimikas. But I think they're particularly strong in the midfield and in forward positions. When you look at the 5 forwards they've got, and I said it, didn't I, about Salah's guaranteed to play, and then the other 2 can come from Gakpo, Nunez, Jota and Diaz. So they're proper strong. Yeah,
you did your analysis, didn't you, on Nunez, because he's an interesting player as a centre forward. He gets a lot of chances, which is part and parcel of being a number 9, which is an important thing. His movement's terrific. His finishing's a little bit erratic, but he's a constant threat, isn't he? It must be tough to play against, because he's looking to spin behind. He can come short. He can hold it up. If he could just improve his finishing by, say, 20%, he'd be a formidable force.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a record of 1 in 3.5 or 1 in 4, something like that, which is not that bad. But when you consider some of the chances that he actually misses, because he does miss a lot. But
did yesterday.
I do like that it doesn't affect him. He keeps getting in there. He's not afraid to miss. And I do think that he's one of these instinctive players where if it happens quickly, he'll probably get more goals. If he has a couple of seconds to think about it, then that's when he tends to miss them, I think. Having said that, his finish yesterday was really good. But they've got options. They've got really good options in there, So really impressed with what Slot's done, how he's operated, what he's said, how he's mixing the team up. I mean, they're flying in Europe, they're flying in the Premier League. They probably didn't want the international break.
Mo Salah, I want to talk about Mo Salah. I mean, we've done it many times and we love Mo Salah and we certainly don't underrate him amongst ourselves. But I wonder whether he gets absolutely the credit he deserves universally. If you think last season he kind of wasn't one of the nominations for Player of the Year. I think in the Ballon d'Or he didn't get even in the long list. And for me, he's just so consistent. I mean, he has quiet days, but even then he'll do something. Yesterday he did the assist for the first goal, didn't he? And then of course he got that vital second goal on the counter attack. Brilliant bit of brilliant finish as well. So he's something else, isn't he? And he's so. I mean, I don't want to tempt fate, but he's so rarely injured. He's constantly a thorn in the opposition's side.
He's a Premier League great. There's no doubt about it. Or
yes,
whatever he does in between now and his time when it's up at Liverpool, he has to be viewed as a Premier League great. I mean, when you're talking the greats of the Premier League, I mean Keane and Henry and all these.
Shearer, go on, say it.
No, I wouldn't say that. You can say that, but there's no doubt Mo Salah is a great of the Premier League. He's an unbelievable player, and he's still got. And we've said it before about his time, whether it's coming to an end this season at Liverpool or what. He's just been phenomenal and is phenomenal.
And still is. 58 goal contributions since the beginning of last season.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
So good.
Yeah, he's definitely, to answer your question, guys, he's definitely underrated. I agree with Alan. He's a great, isn't he? He's a great. I think he may be not as easy on the eye as, say, a Thierry Henry, but he's, I'd say, I can't even say more efficient, but he's just very efficient in this era of football.
Yeah.
I can't speak highly enough of him. Even I know we talk and have a laugh about Fiorentina, but I saw it years and years and years ago, and for him to still be doing it consistently in the Premier League, it just shows you how good he is.
Yeah. Villa have stuttered a little bit in recent weeks. You can expect that, but I actually thought they played pretty well yesterday. I thought they gave Liverpool a good run for their money.
Yeah, they had a couple of chances, didn't they? Rodgers had a couple of chances. That's the one thing that he has to brush on up on also. I mean, so some of his players have been superb this season, and maybe a tad unlucky not to be in the England squad. I guess he perhaps would have been in if he had scored the goals that he should have, because he has had chances very much like yesterday. But I think Villa are a good team. I think they're in the mix to get in the top four, which is where I thought they would end up. So I know it's not been great the last week or two, but yeah, I'd be very happy if I was a Villa fan for where they are.
Yeah, it was always going to happen, wasn't it? I mean, trying to juggle Champions League and the Premier League, it's really tough, and they've done well in the Champions League so far as well. I think the last win in the Champions League was against Bologna. They beat Bayern Munich. But yeah, I think we always said that at the start of the season, it's just whether the players who could come into the team could replicate the form of the starting 11. And at this moment in time, they're just off it a little bit in terms of clinicalness.
3 weekends away from Liverpool versus Manchester City at Anfield. International break, then I think Liverpool play, Southampton away, and then they've got Man City at home. Man City at the moment, which how often have we said this over the last few years? Hardly at all. Are struggling, 4 defeats on the bounce. Who would have thunk it?
And they didn't deserve anything from the game yesterday. Brighton battered them second half. Second half
was a different game. Very similar to the game in midweek, wasn't it? Where Real Madrid against Sporting, exactly the same. Should have been out of sight in the first half, and then slipped away for a period in the second half.
But it was so open. It was like chance after chance after chance. And I know they're missing Rodri, who obviously is a huge part to how they play. But if you can't be that bad when you're missing that play. You know, you get the goal from Erling Haaland, and then you're thinking, okay, they're doing all right. They've had a couple of other chances. But second half, they just folded, didn't they? They were played so open. And I mean, Brighton got the couple of goals, but they could have had another 3 or 4 at least.
Not that I'm giving them excuses, and I said it last night, much of the day. They have got players missing, haven't they? Grealish, Stones, Doku, Rodri, and Diaz. I think if you were talking about a Liverpool side, an Arsenal side, or a Chelsea side who would lose that quality of player, we'd all be giving them a little bit of an excuse. But what I don't understand is how easy it is to play against them. Man City are known for their pressing and pressing as a team, but it's really just non-existent.
Quickly. Yeah,
I can't quite grasp what's going on. Obviously, Rodri is the one who control the midfield and stop them attacks, but with Kovacic and Rico Lewis going in there, they're sort of on the ball, they're good. Off the ball, they're just out of position. And it's looking a bit bleak.
No, I said about it, not a good time for Liverpool to have the international break. It's a bloody good time for Man City to have the international break, so they can just get players in and work on their fitness and get them fit for a couple of weeks' time. They need it badly.
Yeah, we're so accustomed, aren't we, to seeing City get the ball back immediately with that really high press. And if they lose it, win it back within a few seconds' time. The energy levels appeared to have dropped a bit, and it might just be a little. I'm sure it's probably just a blip. In the first half yesterday, I thought they're pretty dominant. First half in midweek, they were pretty dominant, but maybe their energy levels have dropped.
Phil Foden's coming back from injury.
De Bruyne coming back.
Savinho, who's learning the system. You've got Mateus Nunes, who's been there a while, but he's playing off the left. You've got young Simpson Poussey, who's a 19-year-old learning the trade. you got Rico Lewis, who's young, but he's still learning. Obviously, a really talented player, but he's still learning. I just think these little key areas, they're just lacking a little bit of experience at times.
Do you think Pep will keep his job? Do you think he's safe?
Pep will keep his job till however long he wants it.
I would hope so. I really would.
Absolutely.
Wolves against Southampton. Now, I think Wolves have had a rough ride over the last 18 months or so with VAR decisions, but I think yesterday the reverse was true. I think they got lucky. They went 1 goal up, didn't they? And then Southampton scored a goal, and we did it on Match of the Day, and it was given by the referee, and then he was told to go to the monitor, and he was obviously persuaded to disallow the goal, and we all felt that if there was a foul either way, it was committed by the Wolves defender.
It's what's happened what always happens though, isn't it? They set out with these new laws or whatever they want to highlight at the beginning of the season, and then they stick with them for a month or two, and then after that, it all relaxes. So out the window goes the referee's call, out the window goes high bar, and then you get to that decision yesterday. Now, if the referee gave a goal, so it has to be what they say, an absolute howler, terrible error, and that wasn't. And Southampton were really, really hard done by.
Yeah, and probably with the second goal as well, with a couple of fouls on the halfway line. But I suppose for Wolves fans, they'll just say, well, we were due one, and they probably were, but that doesn't help Southampton and their fans, because it makes life very difficult. I did feel for them yesterday. But I think we all agreed on that, didn't we, Micah?
Yep, all agreed. I think Al summed it up perfectly. It's just, I'm sick of talking about...
I just wonder whether they sit there and think that, with this referee's call, we're not really getting involved enough. Oh, I don't want to get involved in this game. I want to do a little bit more. It's almost like the game of football has been taken over by referees. They're now the people that make the laws, they define the laws, and they referee the games. And now we've got VAR, and now we've got, this is the kind of fad we've got now, of co-commentating referees. It's like they're taking us over. It's like we've been invaded from Mars by a load of referees, and nearly everybody's using a referee as a co-commentator to tell us when someone's offside, when we can see it ourselves.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, and I do feel a little bit from the referees, because they're under massive scrutiny.
Me too. It's the toughest job.
So, but when a referee's doing a game and the referee who's doing commentary gets it wrong, then what is the point in having them? I don't understand.
Because a lot of decisions are subjective. We can disagree on various decisions.
But you know what? They should use them differently if they're going to do games. I think they should let the commentator talk about it, the co-com have his opinion, and then whatever's decided, then the referee should come in, or the ex-referee who's commentating on the game as well, should come in and explain the reasons why.
If that's entirely necessary, because...
it's necessary, correct.
The co-commentator should be able to do that. We know the laws of the game, we read them.
No, but again, it's different, isn't it? It's different. We didn't take our referee license, as it were, so they should know all the rules from start to finish. I think we're just using common sense as ex-players. We know the rules, don't we? Well, you certainly do, Gaz, anyway.
My take on yesterday, that VAR referee should not have got involved.
Correct.
He should have just let it carry on. It was a goal. The referee gave the goal, and he had a bloody good view of it, the referee, on the pitch. He was only 10 yards away. He was staring right at it, and the VAR should not have got involved.
No. Totally agree. Having said all that, well done Wolves, first Premier League win of the season, much needed. I interviewed Gary O'Neill after the game, who's always good to talk to, and I can imagine there was a sense of huge relief going right through that team and that squad and their supporters as well. I think John will back us up, producer John as well. I think he's probably very relieved.
Big win, because last couple of results, couple of points. We said that the fixture list was a bit harsh on them. They've had a couple of fixtures now, and certainly yesterday they were expected to win at home. They've done that, so that's a great result for him personally and for them. And who knows, you might see a better Wolves now.
Yeah. Before we go, just want to mention Brentford and Fulham. They played on Monday, of course, and Fulham came back, didn't they, with those 2 goals in injury time. Harry Wilson, and Wilson came on again and did some damage. Brentford scoring for fun, the highest scorers. Their record at home is remarkable. They've got every point has been won at home this season, and they're scoring for fun.
Yeah, it's expected. I think Wiss is a good player. Burmo's good as well. Really I think Al did the analysis on Damsgaard. They're really gelling at the right time. They need to sort it out defensively, though, if they want to improve, because every game's just bonkers. Going to
entertaining.
It is, isn't it? Every single game is bonkers. But that's what they do. I think I criticised Brentford a couple of years ago for maybe being a little bit average or boring. Because I watched them a lot in the Championship, and there was entertaining, and they certainly are entertaining now. So I'm not going to say go back to being defensive. And fair play to Thomas Frank.
You mentioned Wisser there. I mean, he's a very good finisher, He's scored in 2024 the most non-penalty goals, other than, obviously, Erling Haaland, which says a lot.
They look a better team. Well, what they do, they are a better team going forward with those two, with Mbeumo and Wisser, without Ivan Toney. Yeah. Well done to Thomas Frank. He's doing a really good job, as is Marco Silva at Fulham. Another good result for Fulham. Emil Smith-Rowe, good signing, good recruitment. He's got them playing some good stuff as well. Terrible result for Palace, though. He's under pressure as well.
Yeah, it really is. Didn't really see that coming. Fulham have been excellent. Okay, are you looking forward to a little international break? We've got a couple of weeks with just a couple of England games to watch. We'll obviously provide podcast coverage of those games, but in terms of our regular work, I know, Micah, we've got a bit of time off. It's quite nice sometimes, isn't it, in the middle of the season?
It's wonderful, Gary. I'm going to put my feet up.
We love international breaks. We need more of them.
I'm going to the gym.
I'm not sure hardly any fans will agree with you, Alan. I don't think most people don't like the international breaks.
I agree.
I might go away. I'll see. I'll see the next couple of days. I might nip over to Florence, maybe.
Oh, Firenze. Very nice. Very nice too. Okay, that's it for this episode of The Rest is Football. We'll be back on Wednesday to answer your questions. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Have a great week, everyone.